All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we get into some mild Yankees rant updates, Yankee stream updates, ranting about the Yanks, shocker. A couple tinfoil hat updates for you as usual. Talk a little bit about my enjoyable Independence Day weekend. And then we do a little bit of ranting and raving about Team USA's absolutely abysmal effort in the World Cup against Belgium. All that plus a nice little interesting cage fact coming at you right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to the Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti, the show that talks about nothing but tries to find the lessons in everything. We have a good time doing it. Hope everybody had a good week. Mine was pretty solid, always busy. I got another busy week coming up, so by the time you're listening to this or watching this in the YouTube lands, I got more appointments, VA appointments. I got a bunch of claims, updated claims in there for knee pains and shoulder pains and neck pains and war pains and all this other stuff that I'm trying to get legitimately figured out and get, the VA help that I believe I deserve. And I believe most veterans, if not all veterans, deserve. Probably better than what the VA offers. They deserve better than that. But anyway, I've been doing that this week. Last week had a good 4th of July Independence Day with the Creech Daddy. That was a fun time. Didn't record an episode. We were just enjoying grilling out, hitting the pool, watching some sports documentaries, watching the dogs play around and all the fun stuff that you do. Fireworks, dealing with the dogs and fireworks. Of course, my video's freezing on me, so we're going to get that figured out real quick and see if I can fix that. So stand by 1 second here. All right, we're back. Hopefully that fixed the glitch. Who knows? Who cares? I've tried one time, and after that, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I think at the end of the day, it's my laptop. I got too much shit on there, so the bandwidth to deal with the video, recording and stuff, I got to move stuff over to external hard drives so that I can create the space and the bandwidth again, and it won't be an issue. But I got to buy those hard drives first, get them in, do all the technical wizardry. So that'll take some time. Plus, I'll probably procrastinate on ordering hard drives. So there you go. Anyway. It was a good Independence Day weekend. Watched some sports, had a good time, and I hope you guys did too. And I hope you guys had a good post Independence Day weekend this past weekend, because I know Independence Day was 2 weeks ago by the time this posts. So, but I didn't get a chance to talk about how good mine was. I was predicting the future last week, saying it was going to be a good time, and it was. We were right, as we usually are here in the LPDS. Anyway, I don't have much this week. Very quickly, friendly reminder: child sex pedos running the government. Still, nothing happening with them. Speaking actually of which, there was that one dude, Plattner. He's running for Senate or something. I don't know where, what state. I don't know if it's Congress or Senate. It doesn't really matter. But there was an interview with these two. I don't want to make fun of them because they might be on the spectrum, but I think they're just humanoids. That they were the ones who picked this guy to run. So just to give you some insight, as the video freezes in YouTube land again, shocker. Just to give you some insight on how the shit really works. the politicians that run for office get picked by this secret cabal in each state, region, federally, whatever, and they're the ones who identify, hey, you should run. We'll back you. We're good. You're going to run. You're going to be the candidate to run, and we're going to and our money and our people are going to back you. Whatever people. It doesn't. It's both sides. And these people were doing an interview talking about how they picked this guy, and they have their team of secret investigators who vet their potential candidates and check all the dirt on them. And they saw the dirt on this guy, like the assault accusations and all the other, and most of the other bad stuff that is currently out on this guy, Platner. Assaults, rapes, what have you. And they're like, we could get like, these are not deal breakers. We could still get this guy through. And the way they were talking about it was zero moral compass whatsoever. Oh, you completely ruin women's lives by assaulting and raping them? Don't care. You're our guy anyway. And two, they talked about it like, oh yeah, he's our guy. We're still gonna push him. Like we control it, not the voters, not the American people. Like we're still gonna get him through. It's not a deal breaker for us. We'll find a way to make it happen still. So they're not just covering up the whole Epstein stuff and who's working for what intelligence agency and what country is involved in this and that. They're perpetuating it still. Like it's not just that they're pretending it's not existing. They're controlling it. They're keeping it going. And when I hear people talk about, oh well, this political party is better because they're the lesser two evils, and at least we could get, if we could get this guy or gal in office, then this. No, I'm sorry. It's all fucked. I hate to break it to you. And you can eye roll me all you want and say you're a tinfoil hat nut job and you don't know what you're talking about and we're not going to listen to you. Fine. That's fine. But I've seen enough behind the curtain myself, and I know enough people that have worked behind the curtain to tell me how things go down to know that it's all fucked. And we have really no say in the matter. And the portions we do have a say in, they do a damn good job of covering up what we actually can control. We're talking like state, county, local elections and stuff that actually move the needle for us directly. Those don't get any media attention, no social media attention ever, until that person, that candidate is moving up in the world for like federal positions. And they make you only care about the stuff that we have no control over. And like I said, I hate to break it to you. You can call me a nut job all you want, and I'm not here to call you stupid at all. But I'm hoping to maybe wake some people up a little bit to start asking questions. Because there are some people that I know that just wholeheartedly believe that our government is good to go, and that it's the other political parties' people, the citizens, that are the problem because they keep voting for the other political party and not my political party. And that's just not true. That's just not how it is. They're trying to get us to hate each other. Anyway, I'm done with that for the week. Let's keep the ranting going though. We had what I would say was the most brutal Yankee stream we've had all season. Not because the stream was bad. It was still entertaining and fun with the chat. That was always good. The LPDS side of the house always delivers. And I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about the chat, the LPDS universe. You're never going to get a bad experience inside the LPDS universe with good chats, good conversation, all that. What was brutal about it was that the Yankees are such a dumpster fire that it was hard to watch. Now, yes, they were playing the Tampa Bay Rays during the stream, and the Rays are technically in first place, and they're a pretty good. They're a pretty good team for a number of reasons. Mainly because they like to actually play baseball and not just worry about home runs and launch angle. And also their GM doesn't make their team start guys who should be in the minor leagues or playing for the Savannah Bananas because their ego is too big to admit that they made a mistake bringing a guy up to the pros. That's not the Rays aren't doing that, so their team is a little bit more successful. But also, they have the Yankees in their division, who are absolutely shitting the bed once again. And instead of actually taking accountability, they continue to make excuses and gaslight the fan base into thinking like, we're a good team. I don't know what you're talking about. And the game was an absolute dumpster fire. The team is an absolute dumpster fire. I can go on for hours. I can go player by player, the pros and cons of each player. And most of them have more cons than pros. And I'm not just saying this as an angry, ignorant fan. I take the time, ask, with the creature, the wet cat, all the people in my life that have played baseball, have coached baseball, some in the pros, some played in the pros, some played in D1 college, some coached at the high school college level. Like, we're pooling our resources to make sure that we're doing everything we can to understand the situation, to see if we're missing something. Like Cashman continues to claim that we are. You don't have all the information. Then tell us the information that we're missing that would make us go, yes, everything you're doing does make sense now. Nobody seems to know it but you, Cashman. Even your own team doesn't seem to figure it out. Your analysts don't know it. Nobody seems to know the missing information except for you. But your team's an embarrassment right now. An absolute embarrassment. And then they're celebrating. I think they walked off the Nationals recently. I didn't even watch the game. And they're celebrating like they're the best team in the league because you couldn't even beat the Nationals in a regular amount of innings or whatever. Earlier on in the game, you had to walk it off. Now, I'm good. A win's a win, and I also don't subscribe to the idea of harping on the past. So if your team is stinking and losing, you don't want to just keep thinking about that. You want to move forward to try to get out of this slump. So I'm not saying they have to sit there and sulk about the fact that their team stinks. But when you do get a win, don't celebrate like, yeah, we got this. Like, we were always number one. Like, who do you think you are? You thinking you're going to beat us? Like, Be happy with the win and move to the next one. Try to string more than one win in a row in June, July time frame, because you haven't been able to do that in quite some time. And it's just embarrassing to see. Embarrassing on all fronts. And there's no real answer to solve the problem this season. There's too many holes that they have to fill and gaps to fill to make up for. It's impossible for them to do. I think the best thing that they can do at the very minimum is get Volpe out of shortstop and get Wells out of catching position. Get him in the minors. They should DFA him. They should designate him for free agency and drop him altogether. Because he's not struggling. He's bad. He's a bad baseball player. He's never going to figure it out. He's just not good. You have to get rid of that guy. If they just do that by the trade deadline, I'd be happy. But they're not going to do that. Cash is not going to do that. We heard the rumors. There was the rumor Michael Kay said that he heard from veritable sources that Volpe said he refused to learn second base because he wants to prove himself at shortstop. Volpe came out and said he's confused because he's never said that before ever. Randy, quiet back there. And and then within hours, Michael K backpedaled and said, I was confused by that. I didn't think Volpe would ever do something like that." And it turns out it wasn't a rumor. It was false. And I think what really happened was one of two things. One, well, I think both things are actually true. I think they told Michael K to backpedal on that and be like, "Hey, stop talking like that about our guy Volpe." Whether it was true or not, they don't want that. Like, they don't want the conversation even to be had. Because what I think is true, because I don't think Volpe is that egotistical. I just don't think he is. I think he stinks, but I don't think he's that egotistical. I think the more realistic thing was that the Yankees are not letting him go try other positions. And then when they heard the rumor that Michael K mentioned, they said, "Hey, hold up. Don't dog on Volpe. It's really not, he's willing to. Don't say that. But we're not going to admit that we told him no. We're not going to let him go try other positions." That's the more realistic thing. I really don't think Volpe would say that. If he did say that and they're trying to cover that up, they got to get rid of that. That's a bad attitude guy. You can't be a bad player with that ego as well. You just can't do it. You got to get rid of that entity, that toxicity, if that's the case. But I think Volpe probably was a little bit more willing to be like, "Hey, yeah, okay, I'll take some reps." And they're like, no. You're our shortstop. You're our guy. Cashman can't. If he moves you, then he admits that he's wrong, and he can't be wrong. So we'll take care of the stories and we'll cover it up. But because Volpe is the only guy who hasn't tried another position. You haven't even seen stories from preseason or training camp or anything where he's even taken any ground balls at a different position. Every other player on the team has played a different position in the game, let alone practicing and taking reps at it. Every other player has. Even I think Austin Wells played first base once. If not this season, last season. Every other player except for Volpe has played another position. So it makes the rumor sound true, but I think more realistically, it's they're not letting him go to other positions. And then this poor bastard has to wear the rumor mill and all the other bullshit that comes on top of it because he stinks. So the spotlight's on him. But that's the biggest story with the Yanks right now. Is we're talking about one of the top 3 worst players in the league. That's your star story, is bad players. It used to be the opposite. We used to be talking about the best players in the league were always with the Yankees. Now we're talking about the worst players. Austin Wells, the worst player in the major leagues. I'll bet my money on it. He's the worst player in the major leagues right now, offensively. That's the Yankees. That's the World Series competitive team Cashman has been trying to convince us, and Boone has been trying to convince us that they have there. And they have 2 of the 3 worst players in the entire major leagues. You can't win a World Series with that. I'm sorry. You just can't. And don't get me started on Jazz Chisholm and Dominguez. Dominguez had another fly ball that he overran, and it dropped behind him, and he didn't touch it, so they count it as a hit. So it doesn't go on his record, on his stats, as being an error. Just to let you know. So he still only has 1 error in the outfield this season, and he's had 6 of those where he's completely missed routine balls because he sucks. It's just unbelievable. So anyway, because of that, the stream was a poopy. And I imagine future streams will also be like that. So get prepared for more live stream hangman games and trivia that we did during the rain delay game, the one stream, because the game itself there's nothing going on the Yankees offense. Absolutely nothing going on. So there's nothing to talk about. So we'll figure out Hangman. We'll ask questions. We'll share more stories, and that's what we'll do. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. With that, let's move right all over into the good stuff. Finally, because I got more bitching to do in the junction. So we'll step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right, today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by Chips Ahoy Fingers. Man, I love a good Chip Ahoy, but I also love a good chicken fingy. And I'm so tired of having to eat them separately. I bet you are too. Well, guess what? Tony Rigatoni says now we don't have to with his all new Chips Ahoy Fingers. Now you can bite into what you think is a circle-shaped chicken fingy, only to find out that it's got a crisp Chip Ahoy in the center. Don't forget to dunk it in a fresh glass of milk before you take that second bite. So to get yourself a pack of Chips Ahoy Fingies today, visit www.fingermycookie.com, and if you use the promo code at checkout, Ahoy Matey, you'll get 29% off your first pack. Ahoy Matey. Yikes. Anyway, the cage fact. This is an interesting one for me, but probably not for many other people. I just thought it was kind of funny. But everybody knows back in 1996, Nic Cage won the Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal. He was blowing up. You know, everybody wanted a piece of him at that point. And Martin Short was a big fan of Nic Cage, and he recently did a movie called Clifford with Charles Grodin. Now, it's not the Clifford the Big Red Dog. It's Martin Short plays this weird, like child adult thing, and it's a funny, good comedy movie. It's very good. I think it's gotten more of a cult classic feel and and growth to it later on after, because it wasn't as popular back when it came out. So Martin Short wasn't, he wasn't getting the blown up by fans and stuff for Clifford, but he did make that movie. After he wins the Oscar, Nic Cage, Martin Short happens to see him in New York a couple weeks after. He's still big, and he's like, "Oh crap, I got to go up and talk to Nic Cage to let him know, congratulate him, and let him know what a big fan I am, and that we should, work together or do something in the future, and this and that." And he goes up to Nic Cage to introduce himself and to tell him all this stuff. And Nic Cage basically kind of stops him in the conversation dead right there. And he starts talking his ear off about how much he loved the movie Clifford and how he was watching one specific kitchen scene between him and Charles Grodin so many times. He kept rewinding the tape so many times that he jammed his VCR and busted his tape. He had to get a new tape to keep rewatching it. And Martin Short sitting there thinking to himself, like, I'm trying to congratulate you. You're the Oscar winner, and I just made a movie where I'm playing a weird adult child. And he couldn't even get a word in edgewise. Nic Cage was so like fangirling out about this movie and how much he loved it and the nuance and this and that and all the humor. And it blew Martin Short's mind on how this guy was an Oscar winner. He was the big timer at that point. And he still was giving Martin Short his flowers like he was the big timer. Now, Martin Short is a big timer. He's a great actor, incredibly hilarious. He has the Jiminy Glick where he wears the fat suit and interviews people. It's tremendous. He did some early work with Steve Martin. Like, he's just a good top-tier actor. But he's no Nic Cage, So I get his side where he's like, this is Nic Cage we're talking about here. And I'm supposed to be fangirling out to him, and he's fangirling to me. So it was just a funny, interesting interaction to me. And it really, again, once again, proves that Nic Cage is not, he's not that standard Hollywood, look at me, I'm the best, give me my accolades and flowers. He is all about the people. He is a man of the people. And honestly, that's all I got to say about that. I can't say I'm surprised one bit, but I thought it was a nice story. And if I was Martin Short, like imagine Martin Short at the time, it's like, man, that's awesome. This guy just won an Oscar, and he's talking to me like I'm the Oscar winner. Must have been a good feeling. So that's it. That's the Cage fact, a quick one for you this week. You're welcome. Um, I'm I'm in the middle of rewatching Reacher for the 75th time because the next season of Reacher comes out in the next month. Same with the new show Neely, which is a spin-off. She's a character in Reacher, awesome character. So I think that show's also going to be awesome. Um, so that first season comes out next month as well, or they all come out within a month of each other. So I'm rewatching all the Reachers now, but I got to go when I get back to Spider-Man Noir for the 20th time. Um, the spoilers are going to be spilling. The spoilers are going to be spilling. I was watching clips on Instagram that they're posting of stuff because obviously my algorithm is all Nic Cage, and there's the clip of him at the phone booth and he's waiting for a call, and this lady comes in and he needs the phone booth access for the call to come in. So he tells her, he's like, this booth is broken, this one, and the one down the street is also broken. That's two this week. And she starts going into this diatribe. Like, oh, I can't believe it. I took the train all the way out here to get to this phone because I got an interview at Gimbals, which was a department store like a Macy's, and this and that. And all of a sudden the phone rings and he's answering the phone and he's getting the information he needs. And he's finishing up like a sandwich or a hot dog or something. It was a hot dog. And after he hangs up, he looks at the lady. He's chewing his hot dog. He's like, "Hold on, one minute, 1 minute." He'll try to explain himself, and then he just goes, "I lied," and he walks away. Tremendous stuff. He had mustard on his face. Just incredible. Anyway, more Spider Noir spoilers to come. So if you haven't watched it, too bad. The deadline's passed. Moving on over to the Junction, we'll spin the logo up. Now, last week we talked about the World Cup in general, FIFA, the corruption there, the BS fake followers of soccer here in the U.S. We talked about all the good that it's been doing overall. We talked about Team USA and the whole Balogun red card thing. And I believe, I didn't go back to the episode to verify, but I believe I said that watch out for Team USA to do what they always do every World Cup, is to talk this big game only to disappoint, right? Well, I consider myself to be almost wrong in my prediction because Team USA disappointed on such a level that not even I expected it to be that bad. Usually what they do is they lose a close game to a sort of like Cinderella story dark horse team that's not supposed to be good, but they're playing well in the tournament, like Ghana a couple times, teams like that are decent teams. They're not completely dog shit that just have fluke games. That's usually what happens. Close game, hard fought. The U.S. just can't score, and they end up losing in overtime or something like that, 1-0 or whatever. That's what I was expecting. When I tell you I'm 95% sure that Team USA was on the take this game, that's the only reasonable explanation for how bad they were against Belgium. And I can't not talk about it because they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. Trumpy Bear should be embarrassed and stick his tail between his legs after bragging about how he fought the FIFA to suspend the suspension, really, to delay the suspension for that Balogun fella. So his red card, he can still play in the game. And he's bragging. He's like, now it's going to be a good match between the two best versions of each team, and there's no excuses and this and that. And then Belgium didn't even have to show up to the game. They could have sent out, like, you know how in the beginning of games when they're doing the national anthem and they have the kids in front of them with the team, with each team to stand there to get. It's not a Make-A-Wish, but it's just like, hey, we love kids. They love soccer, and we're trying to bring the game. So they have these kids stand in front of them. They got jerseys on, and they're loving that they're with these stars. Belgium could have played that team of kids against Team USA, and they still would have won. That's how bad Team USA was. We're talking they're missing kicks. They're kicking the ground multiple times, kicking the ground. They're kicking the ball to ghosts. They're standing around watching the game happen. Couldn't get out of their own way. Like I said, it was so bad. I thought they were on the take. I have to believe that the odds makers and the gamblers and the mafia or whatever was like, hey, there's so much riding on this game for the U.S. to lose. There's so much money in that. We have to make sure it happens. We have to go scare them, convince them, we'll give them a cut or whatever. That's how bad it was. It wasn't just a tough game that they lost to a better team. It was a better team not even having to try and absolutely dominating this garbage, embarrassment joke of an effort from Team USA. And it's not just about like Team USA who just wasn't good enough. They weren't good enough. Belgium's a better team. We all know that. We all knew that going into it. And you just hope like any given Sunday, the U.S. just has a good performance and Belgium has a bad performance and the U.S. can come away with one. It wasn't even that. It was the days prior and even the weeks prior where it started with the standard bullshit from the media and the fake fans of, oh, this is USA's year. We got Christian Pulisic, and he's like, he plays for AC Milan and in the Serie A for Italy, and that's a top tier, like premier kind of league in Italy, like it's Italy's best league, and it's one of their best teams. And we got Balogun back, and he's a European guy who decided to come play for America, and he's a star. And, this is our year, and it's hosted here in the U.S. It's our year. It started with that. And then the whole red card bullshit, and they're still winning. They won the group, and they bragged about that. We dominated the group, and it's like, you forgot to mention the fact that FIFA put you in the easiest group to get you into the knockout round, just like Canada and just like Mexico, because you're a host nation. That's how it is. That's what corrupt FIFA does. You didn't talk about that. And then you beat Bosnia-Herzegovina. And the soccer analyst, the smart ones, said it ahead of time. They said, yeah, Bosnia-Herzegovina is a no-name team, and you think that the U.S. is going to cruise through. But guess what? If they win that game, they're gonna be in big trouble because they're going to be playing nothing but quality teams the rest of the way. They're going to have to play a team like Belgium. And then if they win that, they're going to have to play a team like Spain, who I think might be favored to win. I don't remember. But Spain's dominating. So it's like the easy road that FIFA gave them in the beginning was just that, just for the beginning. And then they're going to have a hell of a time after that. They're going to really have to earn it or really be exposed. And then the whole red card debacle. It's not right. It was a bullshit call to begin with, and it was a bullshit call. And we've talked about that. But this whole like, oh, well, now if we lose, that's why, because the FIFA handcuffed us to make us lose, and it's not going to be a legitimate win by Belgium and this and that. And if I was Belgium, I know they were bitching and moaning when Trumpy Bear called and said, "Hey, get the guy back on the field." But I bet you in behind closed doors, they were like, good, we'll beat him with that guy. We're not worried about it. And then the U.S. can shut the fuck up about it. Because they're bitching and moaning about how we're not going to have our best players out there, so you're going to be beating a different team. You're not going to be beating our best, so it's not going to count. It's going to be asterisk, a COVID situation. Mickey Mouse game. So when they saw that they were bringing the Balogun back, they were probably like, good. When we beat them, now they have no excuse. Now they have no excuse. And let me tell you something. They didn't just beat them. They bent them over a barrel in front of all their fans and their friends and family on national, world, international TV and spanked them like little beta bitch boy children. And the U.S. spanked themselves, too. They played so fucking bad. How about the goalie? Let me tell you something. The announcers had to have been kicking themselves because they were sucking off Team USA's goalie, this Freese fella, sucking him off on TV. This guy has been so impressive. Forgetting the fact that they had the easiest route playing dog shit teams, and he wasn't giving up a lot of goals against dog shit teams, and they're sucking this guy off like he's the best goalie in the whole tournament. Oh, I can't tell you how impressed I am by that. And as they're saying that, as they're choking themselves on this guy's wiener, he gives up the first goal. Right as they're talking, they're like, "Oh, let me tell you something about this guy. That's a goal." We don't know what happened. And then you look at the replay and you look at the U.S. defense just standing and watching the game happen. 5 yards from the net, and they're watching Belgium's team set up a beautiful play around them, and they're doing nothing about it. They're doing nothing about it. And then about 20 minutes later or whatever, U.S. gets a set play, a penalty, not a penalty kick, but a free kick off a foul, off a penalty, outside of the box, and they score on that. It bounced, the guy kicked it, it bounced off of the Belgium's wall that they put up. The guys jumped and it hit the one guy in the head, and the goalie was already diving to make the save when it bounced off and it ricocheted off into the net, and they scored. So now we're thinking like, okay, there's some life left here. Before we can even finish celebrating, before the announcers can finish saying, "Oh, now the U.S. is right back in this if they can turn things around," and Belgium scored again. Within a minute. That's not an exaggeration. They couldn't even take like the hydration break. They kicked the ball off and scored immediately to take the lead again. And then when you think things couldn't get any worse, watching the rest of the half and the U.S. getting dominated, the second half comes around and there's a ball kicked on the other side of the field, U.S.'s side, well outside the box, probably like 30 yards. So about 20 yards from midfield. And the U.S. goalie comes out to get it, to go kick it. He can't, once he's outside the 18-yard box there, he can't use his hands. So he gets out. He's 30 yards out away from the net now, trying to get this ball. But there's already Belgian players there. So I don't know what the hell he was thinking to come out that to begin with. And then he tries to kick the ball away, and he kicks the dirt. He kicks the grass. He misses the ball. Completely misses the ball. And then he tries again. Strike two. Come in. And he kicks it right into the Belgian player. It ricochets off him into another Belgian guy. And all the other Belgian guy does is pass the ball towards the net because the goalie's 30 yards out. He can't get back in time. He's 30 yards out. Boom. Goal number 3. Immediately. And the announcers are still trying, doing what they can. Oh, well, it's only 2 goals. That's the worst lead to have because now Belgium's going to get complacent and the U.S. has a chance to capitalize and get momentum back. None of that happened. None of that happened. And the coach, I almost can't blame him. He made all the substitutions he needed. He moved everybody around. You're stink, you're gone. Somebody else has to go in. You're stink, goddamn it, you're gone too. Like, he had no other plays. He made all the substitutions he was allowed to make. He did everything he could, it seemed. And where was star Christian Pulisic? People forget that he's not the number 1 guy in Milan. He's like the number 3 or 4 guy. He's just a player on the team. He's not a spotlight guy. This is now the second World Cup where the spotlight's on him as Team USA's number 1 guy, and he shits the bed. He's clearly not a spotlight guy. Not to mention the fact people didn't want to mention and remember that for the past 5 months leading up to the World Cup, his performance on the field has been a poopy. He's been in a slump for various reasons, I'm sure. And they still put this pressure on him, and they still put this spotlight like, don't worry, we got Christian Pulisic. He's our guy. He's not the guy. Stop trying to make him the guy. You sound like Cashman with Volpe and Wells. These are not the guys. How many more years? Again, this is every 4 years they do this. How many more times do you have to do? How many was it, over a decade before you realize, oh, maybe Christian Pulisic isn't the guy. Maybe he is a number 2 or 3 guy, and we should treat him like that, and he'll play better with no pressure. Who knows? But he stunk. Balogun, they said that he tried and played well. I don't even remember him being on the field. I don't know if he got the ball more than twice because the whole team sucked dick. It was like they were told to lose. It's like they were forced to lose. It was the worst soccer I've seen at a professional level ever. And like I said, I watch soccer. Not just the premier, the top tier leagues. I watch all the leagues. Like the Mexican leagues have a whole bunch of random soccer games on, and it's clearly not their biggest league, their best leagues, because they're playing at almost glorified like community center parks with a couple fans there. I'm watching all these teams play in the background. Italy teams, all this stuff in the background. Obviously, I can't understand what they're saying, so I don't know if they're saying like, "Oh, this teams both stink." I'm just watching and enjoying. But I still have never seen a team play as bad on any of those games as I did Team USA play. That was the worst professional soccer effort I've seen ever. Ever. I've seen that performance from really bad high school teams, middle school teams, some college teams, some bad college teams. I've seen that. Not at the professional level. That was dog shit soccer. And it wasn't just, the better team won. By the way, at the end of the game, when the announcers are saying, well, they really got to push. You only got like 2 minutes left in extra time. They had to score and try to make this happen. Belgium scored again to win 4-1. That's how bad it was. When the pressure was on the U.S. to get a goal, they gave up another goal. The worst effort I've seen. And like I said, it wasn't just Belgium was a better team. Belgium is a better team. We already knew that. It wasn't just a better team won. It was Team USA played so poorly, any team was beating them that day. Any team that was in the World Cup was beating them. I'd venture to say there would be plenty of teams not in the World Cup that would have beat them. It was an embarrassing effort. After all that shit talking about the red card and the guys back and we're Team USA and this is our chance to win and all this other bullshit, and that's what you have to show for it. I would deactivate all my social medias if I was one of the players on those teams, on that team. 6 months at minimum. Disappear. Hide your face. That was shameful, embarrassing performance. The worst I've seen. And there's no, I don't want to hear from the apologists. It's like, oh, cut them loose. They had a bad game and this and that. They have a bad game every 4 years. This happens. We called it last week. We called it the week prior. Okay? And this is where I said it's not necessarily the Team USA's fault because they have to pump themselves up and do their own marketing and branding because the U.S. doesn't give a shit about soccer. It's not funded. It's not publicized nearly as much until World Cup comes around. So they're trying to drum up a little attention and chaos there to get the fans going. And I do feel bad because it's like they're completely unimportant until the World Cup, and then all this pressure comes on from the fans, like, oh, this is our year, this is our year. So I don't blame them fully for that, but that effort is unacceptable from any team, any amount of gaslighting you do to pump yourself up. Absolutely abysmal effort. That wasn't just a bad game. I think they were on the take. That's how bad it was. They were playing, like, I could have competed against them. In my prime, in my soccer prime, I could have competed against them. Not saying I would have beat them, but a team full of guys with my skill level and ability and work ethic back in my prime of my soccer days, we could have competed with them. That's how bad they were. It was god-awful performance, and they had so much quit in them. They had right after the second goal, you knew, like, this is over. They're not even trying at this point. You can see it in their eyes, the quit and the lack of grit and determination. It was just, that's what was embarrassing. Yeah, you can have a bad game, but they didn't even try. It's almost like they didn't give a shit. Like they just accepted the loss and they were just like, that's it. We're not even going to waste our effort. That's how bad they looked. That's what was embarrassing the most about it, was the total lack of effort to try and do better. And I've been there. That's how I know they gave up. Because when I was younger, I had a lot of quit in me too. Especially on the soccer field. It's easy to give up on the soccer field. You just don't, you have bad outings and that's what happens. Easy, Randy. That's how I know that they quit, because I know that feeling. I know that look. I know that hunched over, like, sullen effort that they gave. Like, you can see them kind of jogging around. They make one quick spurt and they kick the ball out of bounds and they're like, well, that was my effort. That's it. That's all I'm giving. I've been there. And it's embarrassing. I look back on it and I'm embarrassed by those lack of effort games that I had back in the day. And by the way, those are on family tape. My parents used to record all my sports to show me when I stunk. And those were the games that we played back the most because I quit. I didn't just stink my ability. I just didn't just have a bad game. I just quit on it. So, again, I don't want to hear like, oh, they just had a bad game, cut them some slack, awful critical of a fan who's never played at that level. And you're right, I've never played at that level. But I know quitting when I see it. That's what pisses me off, and that's what I'm critical about. That was the embarrassing effort. They didn't just have a bad game. They quit in the first half after the second goal, after they lost the top, they gave up the lead again. Because as soon as you see it, like, they're not getting back, they're not coming back from this. And then you have to hear it from the damn announcers trying to gaslight and lie and convince themselves, like, they still have a chance here, folks. They still have a chance. No, you can look in their eyes. They're looking big time Christian Pulisic's eyes. Look in the goalie's eyes. Look in the defenseman's eyes. They're defeated already. The game is already over. They already lost. I don't know why they felt that way so early. I don't know what happened. Maybe something happened before the game that got some bad news. I don't know what it was, but that game was over before the second half was up. And that's why I'd be embarrassed, because you talked up this big shit talking game about how we got our guy back and now we're full again, and now we're going to show you what USA is all about. And you did just that in such a grand fashion in the soccer world. That's what the USA men's team is all about. That's the legacy, that's the reputation you now left. More so than the previous years where you shit the bed and lost to dog shit teams that got knocked out after you talked up a big game. Now you left the taste in everyone's mouth of, oh, by the way, when the going gets tough against a good team, we're going to quit before the game's even over. We're losing the game before the final whistle's even blown. It was abysmal from start to finish. Now, I still think that the overall U.S. reputation has gotten bumped up a bunch of notches across the world because people came to visit and realized, this place isn't nearly as bad as our news tells us. So I think that's great. I keep hearing all this crap about it's thundering out, so Randy he's not a thunder guy. So I don't know if you can hear him barking in the background. Easy, buddy. So what the hell was I talking about? Oh, the other fans. So I think from that standpoint, where that's a definitely a net positive out of this World Cup experience, is that you have all these people that actually came and saw the truth about the U.S. And that's good. But I don't agree where some of the fans are like, I still think this is good for Team USA because of X, Y, and Z. No, I don't think the pattern is going to change anytime soon when it comes to soccer. I think the U.S. reputation is better, but the problem when it comes to soccer in the U.S. is that the media and ESPN and everybody else, the money is not going to go back into soccer enough after the World Cup to get the fans still interested until the next World Cup. That's where you need to grow the game. That's where you're motivating young kids in the U.S. to want to play soccer more because they're going to see, oh, there's more opportunities in it. There's more money in it because it's more popular now in the U.S. So I'm going to work on that as opposed to other sports maybe. And then you're gonna build your homegrown talent more for the future of the sport. So now the Team USA could be actually competitive in World Cups and international tournaments and stuff like that. It starts kind of at the top with the money men. If you're not pumping money and marketing into it, it's not going to grow like you think it is. And the fans aren't going to care. Even if the money's not there, the fans are not interested enough in it to stick around after the World Cup. Because it's the same bullshit. It's the same bullshit fans that like all the other stuff they get told to like in the moment. Yeah, they seem super enthusiastic and obsessed with it right now, but they do that about literally everything. Literally everything. In the moment. And then as soon as the moment's over, the obsession is gone. Sometimes people don't even remember how obsessed they were. I've talked to friends who were bragging about shows they used to watch, like telling me, you got to watch this show. You have to. It's the best show out there. And I'm like, hey, remember when you told me to watch that show? They're like, nah. I kind of remember watching it back when it was on, but it was okay. And it's like, dude, you were obsessed with it. Stop it, Randy. Stop being a pussy. So I don't think that obsession and interest is carrying over to to overcome the lack of media attention that U.S. soccer is going to get after the World Cup. It's going to go back to the same thing. And you can't rely on one guy, like a Christian Pulisic, to turn the reputation around every 4 years. It's just not going to happen until the U.S. decides collectively to build the sport up more. And I just don't see them doing that, unfortunately. They're not going to put the money in initially because they want immediate returns, and they're not going to get immediate returns on their investment. It's going to take a long time, several years to grow it. Even with all these foreign guys like Messi coming, David Beckham came over to the U.S., all these European, soccer superstars coming over to the U.S. because they're getting paid a lot by the individual teams. There's still no marketing. I haven't seen one commercial, by the way, on any local Houston station, not one commercial or ad ever for a Houston Dynamo game. Ever. Up until this year when I was talking to somebody and I asked, like, are you watching the World Cup? They're like, yeah, I love soccer. I go to all the Dynamo games. I was like, oh, I thought the Dynamo was disbanded. I thought they ended that team years ago. They're like, no, they're still around. I go to all the games. I've been here for almost 4 years. I haven't seen one single ad, no social media post, nothing about the Houston Dynamo soccer. It's just not getting pushed. Even when all the big names starting to come back to the U.S. to play in the MLS, you get nothing. So I don't want to hear from the people saying, oh, this is going to be good in the future for U.S. soccer. Trust me. It's not. Until those things change, this little obsession because the World Cup was in the U.S. this year, so there's a little bit more popularity and more people interested, that's going away. Just like it always does every World Cup. Until shit changes from the money men and the media to push the game more, nothing's going to change. And they have to push it and push it and push it, knowing that they're not going to get a return on their investment in the same season overnight. It's going to take a while to build things up to get people interested enough to start going to more games, buying more merch, growing the interest. They're just not going to do it, though, because people want the instant gratification. The money men, they want the instant greed kicks in, and they need that return on investment immediately, overnight. So, unfortunately, that's the reality, and the Team USA absolutely did not help one bit with their reputation moving forward. So all the couple people that still think, oh, I think there's a promising future for them. They didn't just kill that promising future. They killed it, and then they continued to torture and beat that promising future in front of the whole world after it was dead. And said, this thing ain't coming back. We're dipping this promising future in acid and melting it away. It is gone. That's how bad their performance and effort was. And I hope to be proven wrong one day. I would love to be able to watch a World Cup and be like, oh, Team USA is favored to make it to the finals. Legitimately favored. Not some U.S. fan that was a fan for 2 weeks saying, like, USA all the way. No, like legitimately like, oh, who are the top teams? Oh, Italy, Spain, Portugal, U.S. Like, I would love that to happen. Because then they put more soccer on regular TV. And I wouldn't have to go find these weird internet channels or overseas teams to watch soccer in the background. But who knows what's going to happen. Very quick caveat, though, to all this. Not caveat, but like little side note. As we continue to get dragged by all of Europe, not just for that performance, but because we call it soccer and all this other bullshit. I looked this up to verify it. As if I I didn't have enough disdain for the UK, for the colonizers that we revolutionized and beat 250 years ago, the limey bastards. We have fun here, folks. That's just jokes, FBI. Don't take me out. But the word soccer was, Randy, please shut up. I love you. Shut the fuck up. The word soccer started in the UK. It started in England. Let's backtrack history. Again, I verified this. I want to make sure it wasn't a fake statement of fact, fake facts. But in England, in the UK, way back then, they called rugby football. And they called soccer association football. So they had two footballs. They had rugby football and association football. And in England, they abbreviate words. They shorten words up like nicknames almost, like we do here in certain aspects. And then they add ER at the end. So rugby became rugger. Rugger, they used to call rugby rugger. They still kind of do. If you ask people, they'll call it rugger. That's what they did. They shortened the word and then they add an ER. So they had rugger football and then they had soccer football. Association. ASOC turned to sock, turned to soccer football. And then just soccer. And then they spread that shit out to all the places they fucking colonized. And then they tried to backpedal now and say, you Americans call it soccer. When you call it football and take it seriously, maybe your team will be better. Hey, asshole. Hey, idiot. Imbecile. Don't forget who started the name soccer. Okay? Now, we're stupid for still using that loser term given to us by a loser country that we beat. That's on us for sure. But what we need to do is we need to dominate them in a World Cup one year, and then we can tell them, we can beat them in the face with it. We can stick their nose in their own shit and be like, hey, now you have to call it soccer because we beat you. Now we took football. We're taking it back. It's now our sport because we won. Do I see that happening anytime soon? No. But just a friendly update for everybody out there. That's how soccer, the term started. From the Limeys. With their own little nicknames that they make fun of us for all the time for abbreviations and nicknames and acronyms and all this stuff. And that's funny, and I don't care if they want to make fun of us. That's fine. But you can't make fun of us for using a term that you created. Rugger football, soccer football. From you guys. And then you shied away from it after we kicked your ass in 1776. And tried to pretend that it never happened. Revisionist history. That's what politicians do now. They try to pretend things just didn't happen. That's what the Brits are doing. That's what the UK is doing over there. That's what all the Europeans are doing. Hate to break it to you guys. But one day, when we beat your ass in the World Cup, we will shove your noses in that shit. And we will take football from you, because that's what the winners call it, football, and you will have to be stuck with soccer, the term you created, the loser term you created. And I look forward to that day. I hope I'm alive to see. And that's all I got to say about that. Before we go, very quickly, the big three, the three pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, being able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you and throughout the land. Number one, exercise every day. Do something every day to improve your health and fitness physically, mentally, or emotionally. Number two, the hardest one to do, don't be a shitty person or negative person, be a kind person. When the opportunity arises to be negative and shitty towards someone else, even if you think they deserve it, take a deep breath, take the LPDS step back, detach from those negative emotions, and remove yourself from the situation. Put your phone down, close your laptop, walk away, whatever you got to do. Number 3, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And you can do this each and every day by thinking about one good thing in your life or one good thing that happened to you in the last 24 hours. And think about what your life would be like without that thing. And that'll put you in the state of gratitude immediately. And when you're in that state, it's a lot easier to remove yourself from the negative situations, and it gives you more capacity to go focus on more positive, productive things like exercising. And if you do these 3 things each and every day, a little bit more and a little bit more, a little bit more each day, I promise you, you'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, be able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you and throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, put your notifications on, and hit that hotline, 202-670-1114. I just tested the hotline recently to make sure it wasn't malfunctioning. Still works, guys. Feel free to dial in at any time with questions, comments, jokes, bits, prank calls, shit talks, feedback, whatever you got. 202-670-1114. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.